is what you guys already have. The Quran, the book of God, the very words of God. You open those up, instantly you'll be able to recognize that this does not read like the Bible. It doesn't read like the Bhagavad Gita of the Hindus. It doesn't read like the Vedas. It doesn't read like the Guru Granth Sahib of the Sikhs. So the book itself will be hopefully an evidence for you. But I would say ultimately, be sincere. And don't, in the Quran God says, call upon me, I will answer your call. No intermediaries. You don't go to the Catholic priest to confess your sins. It's a direct relationship between mankind and God. So be sincere, go home, be open in the way you are looking for the truth. And we would say, inshallah, God will guide you. God will guide you. Ultimately, God will guide you. If you're sincere, God will, inshallah, guide you. Just to give you an understanding, if your background is one of Christianity, then there's glad tidings that the Prophet gave to the Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. He said, there is not a Jew or Christian who hears of my message and accepts it, accepting that I am the messenger of God, and accepting that Jesus, son of Mary, is a messenger of God and a word that proceeded from God. Accept that God will forgive all of their sins. God will forgive all of their sins, and He will take their good deeds and multiply it by a factor of 10 to 700. So that's the glad tidings that the Prophet Muhammad gave to the children of Israel as well as the followers of Christianity. That you're not losing out ultimately by becoming a Muslim.
Nice incentive.
Yeah, very good incentive. And this is what Islam was about. The Prophet ﷺ, in fact, one of my friends who comes to the park, he said that one proof that caused him to convert from Christianity to Islam was the following tradition of the Prophet. The Prophet said that the one who has the intention of doing a good deed but doesn't have the opportunity of transforming that into action, he will get one reward for it. But the one who has the intention of doing a good deed but ends up doing it, it will be multiplied by a factor of 770 to 700, and even more. But the flip side, and here comes the mercy of God. The one who intends to do an evil deed but doesn't end up doing it, stops him or herself from doing it, they'll get one good deed, one good reward. So the incentive there is, look at the mercy here. Everything's stacked up in our favor. If you do good deeds, the mercy of God is immense. If you do an evil deed, you'll get one bad reward. If you have the intention of doing a bad deed and you don't do it, you'll be rewarded for it. One of the traditions of the Prophet, he said that Allah has from His mercy established mercy in 100 parts. One part He sends down to His creation. From that, the mother bird goes off in the morning, comes back and feeds its young, and the horse, I think it's the horse, doesn't trample upon its young. In other words, the mercy, the general mercy that God sends down upon human beings allows us to have this empathy that we naturally see amongst human beings, irrespective of the religion. But the 99 parts, God said He has reserved for His believers, for mankind, for His believers. But there needs to be a qualification. And that qualification is that you testify with your tongue, believing in your heart. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. That there is none worthy of worship in truth. Just pay attention to this final thing. There is none worthy of worship in truth except the one and only true God, Allah. With that comes all the principles, all the knowledge of how to worship God, how to live your life. And that that there is none worthy of being followed in truth except Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, the last and final messenger. The Prophet said that there is no prophet between Jesus, the son of Mary, and Muhammad. We all come from the same lineage, but our mothers are different. We come from the same lineage. So the prophets and messengers that came with the same thing. And God says in the Quran, "O my slaves who have transgressed against their own souls, don't despair at the mercy of your Lord. Do not despair at the mercy of your Lord. For your Lord, He forgives all sins." He forgives all sins. I mean, that verse gets me because it's an indication of the mercy of God that He says, He's addressing you, all of us. "O my slaves, do not transgress, do not despair at the mercy of your Lord. For your Lord forgives all sins, for He is the oft-forgiving, most merciful." The only sin He will not forgive is the sin of associating partners with God, what's known in Islam as shirk. And it is the greatest crime against God, because you're taking a right that is exclusively, you know that is exclusively of God, and you're giving it to other than God. Whether it be Jesus, whether it be Muhammad. There are Muslims who worship Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, unfortunately. Whether it be idols, whether it be the sun, the moon, anything from creation, you're giving a right to God to other than God. And God says the one who dies upon this will not be submitted into Jannah, provided the evidences have been established against them. So that's the message of Islam. So you guys go away.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, sure.
So I was just thinking about it as you were speaking. You cannot ascribe human attributes to God, but you ascribe mercy and compassion. So are these not human attributes as you understand?
Very good question. In Islam, our understanding is that there is not a thing that exists, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a thing that exists except that it has to be qualified by attributes. There's nothing that exists that can just exist, sans attributes, minus attributes. Everything has attributes. Whether it be this book, we would say has the attribute of time, because it's within time. Its time is relative to your time. Your time is relative to his time. His time would be relative to my time if I was traveling on a rocket approaching the speed of light. So we have the attribute of time. We have the attribute of wisdom. Human beings have that innate attribute that distinguishes us from the rock. We can think at the abstract level. We have knowledge. But the attribute doesn't exist as in a vacuum. We don't, so for instance, like I said to you, the hand of a clock. No. If I said to you, hand, you're not going to immediately think hand. Hand of a clock? Yeah. You're going to think anthropomorphically, aren't you? You're going to think hand. The first thing that's going to come to you into your mind is that which you have known all your life, human hand. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But what is that human hand attached to? It's an existent. In other words, attributes don't exist in and of themselves. They are attached to an essence. And you have to know what the essence is before you can interpret what the attribute is. So if a person says to you, hand of a clock, immediately you've got a context. You know that the attribute is being attributed to what? An object known as a clock. And that attribute is different from the hand of a clock, or the hand of a monkey, or the hand of whatever. So that's how we interpret the attributes of God. The essence is the thing to which we understand the attribute. If the attribute is the attribute of mercy, we don't say that there's no similarity. Anyone who tells you that there is absolutely no similarity between God and his creation, either they don't know what they're talking about, or they don't understand similarity. There is, by the very fact that you're using the very term mercy. But it's what in English would be referred to as polysemy, that an attribute is left undefined until you know the context.
So you would say that the mercy we can exert as human beings
is different.
Is not defined the same as the mercy God can exert.
Precisely. That's exactly it. The essence is unique of God. It is unlike our essence. We don't have an understanding of what that essence is, but we can have knowledge of what it is, though we can't encompass that knowledge. So when God said, for instance, that he's merciful, the most merciful, that mercy is so unimaginably great that it's almost incomparable. But we understand that he has mercy. You know, God says in the Quran that he has knowledge. He has knowledge such that even if you had a pen and you wrote it down, you would require not one sea, but two seas before it's exhausted. It's an analogy, but it's describing the immeasurable content of the Creator in comparison to us who are living on this mud ball in an incredibly diverse universe, the extent of which is just breathtaking. In fact, the Quran again tells us to look in. It says to look into the furthest horizons and within yourselves until it becomes manifestly clear to you that this is the truth. And is it not enough that your Lord is a witness over all things? Is it not enough that he knows everything? The Quran says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where then are you going? Where are you going in life? Where are you meandering? There must be a purpose. There has to be a talos. أَفِي اللَّهِ شَكْ? Is there any doubt in God? فَاتِرِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ? The originator of the heavens and the earth? The originator of all that exists? Yeah. All of these things are there. You'll find that the Quran, if you read it, it'll jump from one subject to the other, and it'll have you engaged. And remember, this was revealed piecemeal over a period of 23 years. So the Quran the Prophet knew through the knowledge of God where each verse would be placed. So that's the message of Islam.
Probably keep asking you little questions all day, but I'm sure it's good.
Maybe we're here, so you know what I mean. Come back. You're very welcome. What's your name? Donna. Matthew. Hamza.
Hamza, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Take care, guys.
Okay, fine. I'm just saying that this is what and it seems like no one looks like him. Brother, why not wait until you may book what it says?
Brother.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair.
Where's the other? Where's the other one?
Yeah.
You guys run
After a
off.
long time we got
You got me now.
Yeah. This is we need to make nice short videos. Nowadays people like to watch short.
Oh, you don't know. How you don't know. If you guys want to put a name, Hamza Abu Isa.
Big name. Hamza Isa.
Abu Isa.
Abu Isa.
Whose is this?
We don't.
Put it here?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
You won't be taken away?